Welcome to Highland Waves, a podcast coming to you from Marsh Brook Studios, located beside the world-renowned Margaree River in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada. At Highland Waves, we feature stories about the people who live, work, and play and visit here in Inverness County. This morning, I'm pleased to have in the studio Mr. Morley Mac Neil, Chairman of the Inverness Consolidated Memorial Hospital Charitable Foundation. Good morning, Morley.
Good morning, Bud.
Welcome to Highland Waves.
Thank you.
Describe for our listeners, Morley, the Hospital Foundation.
Well, the Hospital Foundation started back in 1978. At that time, it was the St. Mary's Hospital, and there was the new hospital was built, and the old hospital was turned into apartments. At that time, the foundation took over and became registered in 1978 and used the money from the rentals of the apartments to fund hospital equipment. That was back in 1978. They took on a major renovation in 2008. The Hospital Foundation kind of changed its role then and became really a major fundraiser for the expansion of the hospital, which was a $16 million expansion. It became the community's involvement then to raise $1.9 million. At that time, it was the largest fundraising activity Inverness County had, and we, the foundation, I wasn't involved then, but we surpassed our goal of $1.9 million, and the major expansion went on that you can see now up where the doctor's offices and all that was all changed, and the ER was done over. So that's a little bit about where the Hospital Foundation is. I've been involved for the last 10 years, the last 5 as chair. And so basically we want to enhance the care of the patients at the hospital. You will hear us talk a lot about equipment and infrastructure that we raise funds for, but really what's behind the foundations is enhancing patient care and making the hospital more user-friendly for the staff.
Okay.
Yep.
When you say you concentrate on patient care, can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So I'll give you an example of one of our latest projects that we did. Up in the inpatient rooms upstairs in the hospital, there was a need for an accessible washroom. So before that, the washroom was very small and clumsy to get around and tight to take people in and out of. When you think of a hospital, you would think that would be included, but it was an older building, and so it was really tough for the patients to get in and out of the washroom up there. So we took on the fundraising part of it. It was $70,000 in part of the foundation, and now that is complete. So not only is it easier for the patient to get in, makes a better experience and they have to go to the washroom upstairs, but the staff love it as well.
How did you get involved?
I was approached by Helena Hart. She was coming off the board at the time and looking for a replacement. It was something that wasn't on my radar for sure, but we rotate our annual meetings, and the meeting that year was in Margaree. It was at the Cranton Crossroads Center, and she said, just come and see what it's all about. And so I went. Leo Cox was there at the time. He was board chair, and really grateful. I met the people on the board, and just thought it was a worthwhile adventure to get involved in. Having 4 kids, we use the hospital quite a bit, and anything we could do to help, I thought I'd get involved and see what it's all about. Yeah.
Obviously, it's a volunteer situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you live here in Inverness County?
I live in Margaree Forks, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is the foundation structured?
So there's a board. We have currently 8 board members, and we have 2 ex officio officers. That's the hospital manager, the facility manager, and one from the Nova Scotia Health Authority if they want to sit in on any of our meetings. We can have up to 18 board members, so we're at our lower point right now, and we're actively involved to try to recruit board members for us. So the board, we oversee a full-time employee, Brenda Rankin McDonald, who's been a godsend for the hospital and for the foundation. And so we hire her full time, and she does the soliciting for money from businesses and folks. Plus, she would take any donations coming in, and she organizes all that.
So basically, she is the sole administrator, if you will.
Correct. Yep.
Which probably keeps your administrative costs fairly low.
It is. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you let people know you exist?
We struggled a bit through COVID with our social media, but we're up and running now on Facebook, and we advertise a lot in the Orne, especially for we do an annual holiday campaign, or if we're ever going to fundraise for a specific piece of equipment. Excuse me. We advertise in local papers. Still, we know we have some work to do on the social media front to get our message out there and word of mouth.
Are you a standalone operation, or do you report to anybody?
No, we're a standalone operation, although we belong to a larger group, the Health Foundations in Nova Scotia. So that's all hospital foundations. We get together for a provincial meeting. We have those meetings quarterly. I usually attend online, although I went to one live that was pre-COVID. But since then, they moved online, and I usually take part in those. Okay. And we share success stories and our struggles and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
You have a strategic plan?
We have a strategic plan.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Well, yeah. The strategic plan is basically it gives the direction of what our hospital foundation is set out to do. I talked about the people in it, but our strategic plan really says that our aim is to provide the hospital with the equipment that it needs and how that structure works. So the hospital facility manager would give a list every year of what equipment. She would talk to all our department heads, and they come up with a list every year of equipment that the hospital needs. And then we have the discussion between the board and with Brenda about what we're going to fundraise for next. So that our strategic plan sets it all out. Yeah.
And you have goals? Do you set specific goals for the year?
We'll have a goal for the year for sure in coming off that list, what we want to raise. So we hear from the hospital foundation, the hospital facilitator, exactly what we want to raise our money for. And that can change. You know, we set out our goals, but then all of a sudden something will happen and a new piece of equipment will be needed, and we'll kind of switch gears a bit. Yes, for 100% we will set goals. Again, we may have a donor come forward that wants to do something specific. So that happened in June Leaf's case, where she wanted to donate a significant amount of money at the time. It was $650,000 she made a donation for, and wanted to see exactly the money being spent. And so we knew we were in desperate need for an x-ray machine at the time. We had two analog x-ray machines. One was broken down and the other one we couldn't get parts for anymore. So we knew x-ray, it's such an important part of the hospital, especially in the ER. So we knew we needed one, and it just fit in. The amount of money was just about what she was looking for. So June Leaf was able to purchase that digital x-ray machine. It's a state-of-the-art one. The x-ray technicians love it in that it's really fast. So if you're an elderly patient or you're a patient in pain, you don't have to stand there a while while they adjust the machine and stuff like that. They get in the position that's quick. They just take the x-ray in place. So some of that may come along where we have a goal in mind, but someone wants to donate, a large sum of money, then we have to try to figure out, how to make that work.
What about 2023-24? Is it too early to ask what your goals are for that?
No, not at all. So right now we have an annual Christmas campaign. You may have seen it come out in the mail, the Always Care campaign. And right now we're fundraising for a cuddle bed that is used in the palliative care group. So the extension of the wing of the palliative care, it's my understanding it's a bed that's wide, so you can get in with the patient. So if a family member wants to call in bed with them, they do it now, but it's a single hospital bed, and it's not made for more than one person. So this bed is made for 2 or 3 people. You can actually get in group and get in bed with the person that's palliative. And that's part of our work with the palliative care people. probably 5 or 6 years ago, we fundraised for a palliative care room. So where palliative people are in the hospital, there's 2 rooms set aside, but the family was always outside in the hallway. And if they wanted to have a rest or whatever, they would find a couch or get in the room. So we made a palliative care room out of a supply closet that was down by the chapel, and that has shower facilities. It has fold-out beds. Your pillows and your linen and all that are provided by the hospital. There's TV in there. There's kitchenette in there, and families can go in and gather in there and talk. So this cuddle bed is just the next step for the palliative care section of the hospital.
How do you allocate funds?
Yep. So we had the discussion with Nova Scotia Health when we decided to go forward with the project. So when we talked to the facility manager, she talks to department heads, the board decides what our next priority will be, and then we'll talk to Nova Scotia Health back and forth about the funding share. When I first started on the board, it was fairly straightforward. If we wanted to move with a project and the government supported it, they would pay 70% and we would fundraise 30%. That went away, and now it's basically, if you want the project and the government's not willing to support it, then you pay 100%. So that's what happened with the accessible washroom that I talked about earlier. We had the discussions, with the board. Is an accessible washroom something government should pay for? Is it something a board should pay for? With our donations. And so in the end, when we go back to what we want to do, we want to enhance patient care. We really want to provide an excellent facility for our patients and their experience in the hospital. We decided, yes, we would go ahead and do it. If we waited for government to do it, it may never get done. So it was a discussion with the board, and then we picked that project to go with.
So the Nova Scotia government does have input as to how the money is allocated if they are a funder.
That's correct, yeah.
If you come up with a situation where you wanted to fund a project, for example, the new machine you were talking about in the X-ray department,
yeah.
The government has to pay the staff costs, correct?
Yep.
So I would assume they would have a fairly large say
Yep.
in, is that machine going to be put in the hospital?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And to be clear, we had the discussions too about who was, the cost of the X-ray machine, and came in at around $650,000. We thought maybe was, we should have the discussion about how much of that would we pay and how much would the government pay. But in the end, the cost of installation was just about the same as the machine, right? So the government paid for that part of it. The floor had to be reinforced, had to be leads in the walls, all that sort of thing. And whenever you're talking, doing anything in a hospital, the costs seem to skyrocket because you're dealing with, infection control, negative pressures, all that sort of thing. Keeping the hospital clean, except for the spot you're trying to work in. So costs really do go up when you're talking about that. So absolutely, we have to have Nova Scotia Health on side. They've been very good to deal with. And if we have a project in mind, they certainly listen and they help us out the best they can. We end up usually, like I say, purchasing the equipment, but they look after all the contractors coming in, all that sort of thing. Yeah.
If a person comes along and says, I want to give X amount of money to the foundation, but I want it to be directed to this particular area, is that feasible, or is that...
It is. We'll often get people donating, like for cancer care, for instance. So part of the foundation too, we provide gas cards for patients that have to travel outside of Inverness. So we'll do that. So some people targeted toward that. We don't, I wouldn't say we don't discourage it at all, but it costs some money to run the foundation as well. And there's also little pieces of gear that come, or requests come our way. So we'd like to have money on hand for that. So absolutely, every dollar, every donation, we really appreciate. It's some small donations that really keep the foundation going. I know the big donations sometimes get attention, but it's really the day-to-day, the folks in Inverness County who are so good to support the hospital. that really allow us to do what we do. But to answer your question, yeah, if someone came forward and said, "Look, I want to put this money toward cancer care, or I really want to put this, toward a accessible washroom," then we would absolutely do that. Yeah.
You said that it does cost money to keep the foundation going.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. Yep. So our employee, Brenda Rankin McDonald, we pay salary and we run an office in the hospital. We're very fortunate that the hospital gives us an office rent-free there. So Brenda's office is inside, but she has expenses too. We also do mail-out campaigns and all that sort of thing, and advertising, which costs us money. So the day-to-day stuff, and if we didn't have her, I mean, with all those donations coming in, we really need some administrator. It would be tough to leave that up to volunteers. So we're very lucky to have her, and she deals a lot with our auditors. So there's those costs, and so yeah, the day-to-day foundation, we really need some money to run that. Yeah.
What are your main sources of money?
Again, it's we get a lot of people just coming in and wanting to help. We've noticed that people, especially since the CT scan went in, people coming from all over the island to use that, and our ER. So we do get donations now more and more from outside Inverness County, but mostly it's the people in Inverness County, and we're very grateful for that. We do get the odd businesses. We do solicit businesses for donations, and we're very fortunate. There's a good group of business owners in this county that support the hospital.
Speaking of business owners supporting the hospital, you recently received a fairly large donation from the Van Supton family.
We did.
Have they been regular contributors to the hospital?
They've been excellent with the hospital. And when I talked about their expansion back in 2008, the Van Suptons were really strong behind that. And yeah, they've been a constant contributor to the hospital. Very fortunate to have a group like that in the county. Yep.
That's a fairly large donation.
Mm-hmm.
Was that earmarked for somewhere else, or is that just up to the foundation and the hospital to decide where it needs to go?
Right. That's where it is right now. They did not earmark it for anything. They had some ideas in mind. They came in to see us. John has been down a few times. And right now there's talk about doing some more expansion at the hospital. And so we're just going to wait and see where the money will be needed. We'll have some conversations with Nova Scotia Health and the facility manager. And right now the money is just put aside, and we're going to wait to see what our next ask will be from the hospital.
I've spent some time at the hospital over the years since I've been here, and one of the things that I have noticed is that the increase in activity at the hospital, mm-hmm. particularly in the ER, mm-hmm. and at the doctor's offices, there seems to be an increase. Right. And I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the people that you serve are probably from Waikagama, let's say, down to the Pleasant Bay area. Mm-hmm. Do you have a liaison person in each of these communities from the foundation that sort of represent you in those communities?
So we try to pick our board members from those communities so that we'd have an ear about what's going on in that community. Right now, we do not have someone from Waikagama, although there always was one there. We had 3 from Margaree at one time. I'm the only one there now, but we try to spread it out through the county, so we'll have representation in each spot. Shetty Camp has their own hospital, their own foundation, so it would be basically from the Margarees, Waikagama, up to Port Hood, that section.
The spending on healthcare in Nova Scotia, I think last year was $5.7 billion. Do you have any idea what Inverness costs to run?
Mm-hmm. I would have, no.
I tried to do some research on that, and I couldn't find it, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
And obviously, we need all of the help we can get. And the foundation over the years has provided a tremendous amount of equipment and like CT scanners, the palliative care room, mm-hmm. and much in between. What message do you have to pass along to our listeners about what work the foundation does and what you see where you'll need help in the future,
Mm-hmm.
or at least in the near future.
Again, the foundation is all about helping the patient and the patient experience. And I hope people notice that when they go to the hospital. I mentioned to you before, we're a rural hospital, but we act like a regional one. We always punch above our weight class. And I hope people notice that when they go to the hospital, that our ER never closes. You would notice that. We support our doctors and all staff there with equipment that we purchase. We support them with equipment that makes the doctors want to come here. Like the CT scan was a big sell for that. And having the 12 different visiting doctors come so that people don't have to travel out of the community is huge. Having the specialists come here to us and having the spot for them and the equipment for them to do their work. You would notice, again, like the RE never closes, we don't charge for parking. Some foundations, you will use that money, or Nova Scotia Health will use the money for parking. It's not something that we want to start in Inverness. Not that we talked about it at the board. I mean, it's kind of an inconvenience more than anything. So if you want to keep the hospital as funded as we are and the way things are going, we really need the donations. We do have our annual holiday campaign right now, which is raising money for the cuddle bed that we talked about for palliative care. So I'm also soliciting for board members. If anybody's interested in becoming part of the board, they can get a hold of me in the phone book, or you can contact Brenda Rankin McDonald at the hospital. But we're actively seeking now some board members.
Clearly, we'll continue to need more money to meet the health needs of our community in the future.
Yeah.
So it's important for everyone to consider making a donation to the foundation. It helps us all, and your donation is tax deductible, I understand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that by contacting the foundation at 1902-258-2236.
We also have a Facebook page, and then there's a link on the Facebook page to our website where you can make donations through that. And we're really starting to notice an uptick on people donating online.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I don't think so. I'll just go. Again, we really appreciate every amount of dollar we receive. The big donations come, and they're really appreciated. But really what makes the foundation run is the $5, $10, $25 donations. And the people in Inverness County have been great for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming to tell us about the work of the foundation and what it does for our community here in Inverness County. I wish you well in your future endeavors. And on behalf of our listeners, thank you. And also a reminder to them to not forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can stay up to date. Our thought for today is by Winston Churchill, who once said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." So long for now, Pat.